All right, so without any further ado, Chase Waterhouse with Dana Innovations.
Thanks, Rick, and good morning, everyone. Afternoon for some of you. Thanks for taking the time to jump on this call, spend a little bit of time with us, kind of going over some of our IPORT products. Like Rick said, my name is Chase Waterhouse. I'm on the IPORT product team for IPORT division of Dana Innovations. Been with the company for about 7 years. Prior to that, I had about 8 years experience working for Apple directly. So iPad and Apple is kind of ingrained in my life. It has been for some time now. So excited to talk with you all about some of the product offerings that we have for iPad, and kind of go through some explanation as to what's changed and what's available based on some recent announcements that Apple has. So with that, we'll just jump in real quickly here. A little bit of history. IPORT was founded in 2004. Our founder of Sonance, Scott Struthers, got an iPod when it first came out, had 1,000 songs in his pocket, and had a really cool audio system in his home and no way to really integrate the two together. So he, like most of us, decided he was just going to build a new product, and thus birthed the in-wall iPod dock. iPort's kind of moved a long ways since the introduction of the first IW dock in 2004. And subsequently, as a result of some changes in the market and hardware changes, iPort's taken a little bit different direction from music streaming and sharing, especially in a world now where streaming is all to mobile devices. Took more of a road towards integrating iPad and technology into your home solution. We've taken the opportunity to look back and see, as the world of IoT devices is continuing to grow and control systems are following suit, everybody seems to have an app for something. And we're trying to take advantage of the user experience that's already mostly familiar and comfortable by most individuals, and allowing iPad to become an integral part of your home technology solution. So as you can see, around 2015, we started to change directions towards more of iPad-based products, some of which we'll be talking about here in a little bit. What I was alluding to earlier was at IPORT, we believe that the mobile devices become the controller for the whole home. We believe that having a dedicated iPad for home control creates the best user experience possible, but this is only accomplished when the iPad works, when it's charged, when it is easily accessible and is protected within that environment. Two kind of categories that we focus on mainly here within the IPORT product line. We have two kind of subcategories, and that would be a mobile solution and a fixed solution. Scenarios for either or both. A fixed solution, think of it of a high traffic area, point of entry, or a master bedroom, something like that, where you always want to know that the product is in that location and is able to be accessed at any point in time, much like a light switch or something where it's fixed to the wall, and all you have to do is walk up to it and it's going to work and do its job. You don't have to go through the house and find it. You're not going to have to switch apps out of your phone to control it. Its dedicated purpose is to control your home, and that's its main goal. Mobile solutions have a benefit to be able to travel with you. So what I showed before with the LuxePort has a docking station that keeps the unit charged, but is able to be taken with you throughout the home to control the TV or entertainment centers, outside for outdoor entertainment, those scenarios and such. I want to talk briefly about iPad and iOS. iOS is a familiar platform to most individuals nowadays. But there's a few little tips and tricks that we've found that really allow for iPad and for that user experience to be the best that it can be when running with a smart home or control system. Um, iPad is typically run in what's called a single app experience, meaning just that singular app is running on top of the screen at most, if not all, points in time within the user experience. What's an interesting fact within iPad is using either a couple different suites of software, one that's developed by Apple using OS X server, or a couple other softwares, VMware, AirWatch, or Jamf. Those softwares have a mobile device management system built into them, which the really interesting features of those allows you to lock the app into a single experience, which gives you the opportunity of controlling your customer's experience when using that app, and making sure that that app is the only one running in order to control that home system. And this can, work with any, control systems app, allowing that iPad in that location to always be running and showing just that control system app and not a YouTube video or something else, if that's important to you or to your customers. The also interesting part of a mobile device management system allows you to view and monitor the health of the devices, do some remote maintenance to it if necessary, and also it allows you to suppress notifications throughout the entire app user experience. So if you're worried about software update notifications or any other type of push notifications that may override that app, you can actually suppress that within a mobile device management system as well. But going back to the most interesting feature of locking that single app to the iPad to control the system at all points in time. There's also the ability of running multiple app experience within iPad. And what that means, that allows you to run a couple different apps simultaneously in a number of different fashions. There's going to be two different looks of how the apps work, and that's based upon the app developer, if they're in compliance with Apple's multi-app user experience or not. The first look is a floating app on top of a singular app. So this is accessed by a quick swipe of from the bottom of the screen to access the dock in a simple app switching mode. That action of swiping up from the bottom of the iPad is the start foundation action to running a multi-app experience. It would look something like this. You swipe up from the bottom of the dock of the iPad to reveal the dock. You can then at that point select which app that you'd like to run on top of the screen and simply drag it up from the bottom of the dock, and it hovers over top of whatever app you had previously running. And as you can see, both apps are fully functional at all points in time, where they've designed it at this point to it hovers over top of the main app, and you can swipe it back and forth in order to reveal the other sections of the app that you need, or simply swipe it off of the screen and it goes away for a point in time until you swipe it back. The other option here is to run a true multitasking app, which again, based off of the development of that app from the app developer, allows you to potentially run two side-by-side applications on a single experience. So it looks something like this. You swipe up from the bottom of the screen just like you typically would. You select the app that you want running and drag it over to the side of the other current app, and that allows you to have a 60-30 or a 50-50, sorry, 60-40 or a 50-50 view of that app that's currently running, which allows you at that point, if you're thinking from an IoT standpoint, of running, say, Philips Hue and Ring or something like that. If you wanted to have both of those apps running together, you can have that experience set up for your customer and then lock that into place using an MDM. This view here just shows you how you can do the 50-50 view of each app, or resize however you want, and the apps will append appropriately. Lastly, within the iOS world is you have the ability of actually hardwiring your iPad to your network. I know as IoT devices become more and more popular, there's a constant battle for wireless bandwidth and devices that are now asking for a spot on the network. So having the ability of actually hardwiring an iPad to your network is a huge advantage to be able to maintain a secure connection and monitor the iPad at all points in time. This diagram here shows you how you can do that through a number of Apple devices and running 2 different Cat 5 or 6 cables, one for power and one dedicated for data. But we recently introduced a product that allows for this whole solution to happen, but using a small little jumper cable allows for only one Cat 5 or 6 cable to be ran to each location, and then jump over from the Apple devices onto our PoE splitter. That would then give you power and data within one location on the iPad. So a little bit about the most recent Apple announcement. This was the current product line available within the Apple lineup around, we'll say, September of 2018. October, they released a couple new Pro products, and then most recently, they just randomly announced a few new iPads that kind of took us a little bit by surprise. But we'll go through some of the changes, and more importantly, the verbiage of these particular products. So in 2018, we had iPad Mini 4, iPad 6th generation, iPad Pro 10.5, and iPad Pro 12.9. Available products that we at IPORT had for these products was our LaunchPort, our LuxePort, our Surface Mount, and then our Surface Mount with buttons products. Apple went ahead and made a change to a few of these products, and at this point now they have an iPad Mini 5th generation. The iPad 6th generation did not change. They released the 3rd generation iPad Air, which took the place of the iPad Pro 10.5 in a form factor. And then they released, at this point, like I said a little bit earlier, but for this conversation, then they released the iPad Pro, the new 12.9, and then they also have an 11-inch. So from our product offerings at this point in time, we still offer products for the iPad Mini and the iPad 6th generation. iPad 6th generation covers a range of products from the iPad Air 1 all the way to the iPad 6th generation. And where Apple decided to make things super fun and confusing at this point is that product, the second one that you see there, is called iPad 6th generation. They have gone away with this form factor of calling it iPad Air, because iPad Air now is the 10.5-inch form factor. So where, going back here, where iPad Pro 10.5 was on the Pro level, that form factor is now iPad Air. So if you're familiar with any of our products, the LaunchPort AP5 sleeve was for, we said, all iPad Airs. We can't say that any longer because it's not actually going to fit the 10.5, but it's the iPad 6th generation, which is iPad Air 1, Air 2, Pro 9.7, 5th generation, and 6th generation. A couple points to note about our current product line as it stands right now. The iPad Mini will physically fit into any of the previous iPad Mini products. So iPad mini 5th generation will still work if you had any accessories for iPad mini 4. There is a potential that there's a microphone on the back of that iPad that's going to be covered. So we have some changes coming to the top portions of LuxePort and LaunchPort that should be available in June that address those coverings of the microphone and provides a little bit more space for some of the buttons. The iPad Air 6th generation, nothing's changed, so the current product line holds true to that form factor. And then any of the products that we had, Surface Mount and LuxePort, that were available for the Pro 10.5 will also work for the iPad Air 3rd generation. We're working in development for the iPad Pro 12.9, so as of right now, we don't have any products that support it, but it is something that's on the roadmap and in our wheelhouse. So let me go spend a few minutes here jumping into 2 product categories that we have, starting with our newest addition to the IPORT product line of LuxePort. So why did we make LuxePort? We took a lot of feedback and heard a lot from all of you out in the field that you wanted a product that was nicer looking, higher aesthetics, higher dollar selling point, that your customers and their beautiful homes that you're integrating for will have a product that looks like it belongs in that space. So we took all of our learnings from our previous product line of Surface Mount and combo with LaunchPort and developed LuxePort. One note about LaunchPort and LuxePort. LaunchPort is not going anywhere. It's not, LuxePort is not a replacement to LaunchPort. It is an addition to the IPORT product line. And this is important because this gives you all the advantage of selling LuxePort and LaunchPort together in the same conversation. If you start out the conversation with LuxePort and for any particular reason, if a customer, if it outprices what they're looking for an iPad tablet solution, you can then have the ability of offering them LaunchPort as a substitute solution for LuxePort. So there was some confusion early on that LuxePort was replacing LaunchPort, and we want to make sure that it's clear that LuxePort and LaunchPort are sold together in tandem from a product line offering standpoint, and LaunchPort isn't going anywhere at this point in time. So the system of LuxePort consists of a station, which is either a base station for tabletop installations or a wall station, which gets installed into the wall to hold the product, and then a sleeve that's selected based upon the size of the iPad that you're offering. Together, that creates the LuxePort system. LuxePort's available in 3 different finishes of silver, white, and black. A few call outs, there's access to all key features, and again, this was once the modifications for the new iPad mini 5 are made, then all of these will again stand true. But access to all key functions of the iPad. The case halves together can be locked, which provides another level of security to the actual products if you had the opportunity or application to install these products in a high traffic public use space. There's the ability of locking all of these components together so the product doesn't run away. The bezel is machined out of aluminum, and it's a lightweight, sleek design. The aluminum products that are used throughout this entire product category are manufactured at the same time and location, so there's going to be a consistent look and feel to each one of the products when placed together. The base station again has the ability of then locking that case to the base station and still allow for adjustable viewing angle of the iPad depending upon the user viewpoint. The base station has the ability of integrating the cable routing down through the table and then allowing for the base station to seat on top of that cable, which allows for a nice, clean, cable-free look, coupled with the cable-free charging of the LuxePort system. And then we have the wall station, same look and feel, same functions available. This, however, is not lockable. So this would be a solution where it's either a back of house installation or it's in one of your customers' homes where the iPad doesn't need to be secured at all points in time, just needs to be held and charged. There's a few holes around the corners of the bezel here, the bottom to allow the bezel to be locked together, and then the side two are used to separate the halves of the bezel and the shell. An important installation note about the case is not designed for the iPad to be installed and uninstalled in and out of the case regularly. This is a dedicated iPad with a dedicated case around it. So the installation process takes a few minutes, but once it's installed, then it's securely surrounding the iPad at all points in time. So there's a little tool that's provided that allows for the case halves to separate. When you first get the unit together, you separate the halves, install the iPad, and then you can lock it down. LuxePort system has a number of different powering solutions. The most popular for the wall station is using a PoE switch. The wall station is provided with our IPORT PoE splitter, which allows for then a USB-C connection to be made to the wall station. If for any reason you do not have a PoE switch in that location or in that install at all, there's an optional IPORT PoE injector that's able to be used in order to run power to that wall station. If you're running in a scenario where you have a legacy power system or control system and have a 2-wire connection to that location already, you can run 24-volt power supply to that same splitter, allowing to do power for that LuxePort in that particular application. The base station is USB-C powered. We've been asked before if you can run PoE to it. The answer is yes. You would simply use the IPORT PoE splitter, which has a USB connection on it, and then you would use the provided USB to USB-C cable to the base station, and then hide that splitter somewhere in the table or desk, however you may have it installed. There's a few optional accessories for LuxePort. There's the USB module, which adds 2 additional charging ports to the back of the base station, which is a nice feature if you have it at a kitchen table or like a kitchen countertop or bedside table to charge 2 additional phones while you're at it. And then we have the retrofit adapter ring for LaunchPort, and I'll get into that here in a second. So the USB module follows the same mechanical industrial design, fits directly into the USB port of the base station, and then has a separate power supply that then powers the whole system. The installation process is pretty straightforward with the wall station. There's a small hole that's cut into the wall, and then anchors that are put into the drywall if needed to actually install that wall station. I had mentioned if you're upgrading from a previous LaunchPort system to LuxePort, we have the LaunchPort adapter ring that takes the place and same shape as the previous LaunchPort, but provides a nice elegant look of LuxePort. So the ring simply uses the same exact mounting locations and points to the that the previous LaunchPort had, and then allows for the wall station to be installed, providing the nice elegance of LuxePort in that location. The base station, as I said previously, there's a small lock on the back of the base station that allows you to, with the provided tool, lock the case to the base station in either portrait or landscape orientations if that application is necessary in that location. So LuxePort, as I had mentioned, took majority of its cues from surface mount, providing the same high-end aluminum bezel look and feel It was PoE or 24-volt powered, providing a nice retrofit and flexible installation opportunities, and then provided for a higher selling margin and price for you guys to make more money on these products at this point. That does it for LuxePort. We'll jump a little bit here into LaunchPort and show you that a little bit. So LaunchPort was initially introduced about 8 years ago now at this point. There hasn't been a whole lot of change to the product line as opposed to just adaptation to iPads as they come into the field. But the idea behind LaunchPort was to hold, charge, and protect the iPad. We wanted to make it easy to have the iPad with you in a mobile solution, but not have to worry about connections and wires. And also, as all of you I'm sure are familiar, if you have a lightning connector cable somewhere, typically it's never going to be found when you need it, or there's going to be another device that's connected to it when you need to charge the product. So LaunchPort is a great opportunity to dedicate that charging solution for that iPad, and to guarantee that whenever you pick up the iPad at that point, it's going to be charged and ready to go. So the LaunchPort system is very similar to the LuxePort system. We have a station that's either the base station that sits on a table or desk, and a wall station that gets installed into the wall, and the wire gets ran to that location to power the iPad. We have a sleeve that houses the iPad. This install is 2 halves that are put together, top and bottom piece, and then the iPad is slid right into that case, providing for a quick and easy installation process. And together, all those pieces create the LaunchPort system. So the sleeve has a few openings for the microphones. As I said, that's one point that we're making a change to with the iPad mini 5th generation, is we needed to make some additional openings for the microphone in the back of the iPad, or the LaunchPort sleeve, for the changes to that iPad. But within the sleeve, you have access to the main functions of the iPad, and then we have on the front audio waveguides, which allow for better amplification of the tablet speakers, but also as a receptacle for the current microphone on that iPad if you're doing any video conferencing or FaceTime chatting. The middle of the back section is the main charging portion, and it magnetically attaches to the base station and to the wall station. So the offerings that we have currently within the AP5 sleeve and the AM2 sleeve is all of the current mini products, and then the iPad 9.7 inch form factors, which is the Air 2, Pro 9.7, 5th and 6th generation. LaunchPort is powered over a 2-wire connection. It's a 15-volt, 2-amp power supply that's provided. If you have Cat 5 or 6 cable that's ran to the location already that you'd like to install LaunchPort, you can just simply pair up the striped and solid wires together and use that category cable as a 2-conductor cable, playing around a little bit with the head end to get the power supply connected, but it is doable. So the installation process for LaunchPort is a little bit simpler. As I was saying, the iPad simply slides into the back of the LaunchPort. The 2 halves are put together, and then that completes the installation of the case for LaunchPort. LaunchPort is then set onto the base station where it magnetically charges and inductively charges, and is held in place where it can be charged in either portrait or landscape in either one of the base stations. few options that we have available for LaunchPort is the security pack. This provides a security screw to lock the two halves of the sleeves together and provides the opportunity for a tether to be tethered to a table. There's a 1 meter tether that's provided, or a little loop where you can provide your own length of cable that you wanted to use to lock that wall station, or to that case, to a table or base station. And then a little product that we have called the Standle, which is can double as a stand or a handle in applications use of, say, video conferencing or restaurant back of house training videos or certain things like that. So that does it for the LaunchPort section. And then have a few minutes here left. I'll get into surface mount, which you'll notice takes a little bit of similarities from LuxePort. And this is where the main design was derived from for LuxePort, was through surface mount. So surface mount allows you to elegantly integrate iPad into any surface. The installation process is relatively straightforward in comparison to previous products that we introduced in the same type of form factor. The surface mount system consists of a bezel that's chosen based off of the size of the iPad for that location, the IPORT PoE splitter, and an optional injector if you do not have PoE ran in that install. The iPad installation falls into the bezel. There's a couple retaining clips that secure the iPad into the bezel. The category cable and the Apple Lightning cable are plugged into the USB splitter, and then into the rack at the head end, or the iPad for the Lightning connection to provide power. There's a small hole that's cut into the wall. You can use a single gang junction box to house all the electronics that you need to, and then the frame gets installed around the junction box, and then the bezel gets installed and magnetically holds onto the wall bracket. As I said, the surface mount is powered over the PoE splitter, either with a Cat 5 or 6 cable, along with a PoE splitter or injector. The surface mount is available in 3 different finishes, and this product line does carry the widest range of support within the current iPad tablet offerings, and there'll be more to come within the more recent changes as well. But available in the same finishes as LuxePort, in black, silver, or white. This provides access to all of the main features of the iPad as well. And currently this does accommodate the iPad Mini 4, the microphone, iPad Mini 5. Again, the changes to one of the main changes to the Mini 5 was the location change of the microphone, but that's on the back side of the iPad. So the iPad's placed on the wall already, so it's covered. This surface mount allows you to lock the system together. So again, if you're in a public use or high traffic space, you can secure the iPad to the wall and not worry that someone's going to take it. A couple different things that we have available as well from an application standpoint is a side mount version that can be installed onto the mullion of a door or window that allows for the unit to float off of the glass if you have an open concept meeting room location. And it's a great use in commercial applications for digital signage. We're using them all throughout our current office here for digital sign, but conference room availability through a number of different conference room scheduling applications such as Team or Robin. The other option within the service mount line is our service mount with buttons. Service mount with buttons takes the same look and feel of service mount, but adds IP controllable buttons. So these buttons allow for direct IP communication back to all major control systems that are out on the market. The service mount with buttons consists of either a 6-button or a 10-button. The iPad Air size of the 9.7, the mini size, and then the Pro 12.9, the first and second generation, not the current Pro 12.9 product. Same finishes are available within the button offerings of black, silver, and white. They're all going to look the same throughout the whole product line itself. The buttons are backlit. There's an RGB light underneath each one of the buttons that allows you to program and change the intensity of the brightness of the light, and also the color based upon any trigger settings that you may program within your control system. Buttons are custom engravable, and they come shipped with 30 different types of engraved buttons out of the gate. This is a quick little video of the laser machines that we have here in-house to do the engraving. And it's about 35 bucks for a custom engraving 10-pack. The installation of buttons requires the removal of the PCB board behind each button, 3 little screws. The buttons are removed, and then the replacement buttons are installed, and the board simply put back in its place. Same option here to hardwire the surface mount with buttons to your network using a combination of Apple connectors. Also, there's a new product that's starting to become available in the market called RedPark. RedPark is a data and PoE splitter together. So a single category cable can be ran to each location, and bypassing the need for all of these Apple dongles that would circumvent the need for all of this in order to provide data and power to the iPad. It's a RedPark is the company and manufacturer that makes this PoE splitter. Here's a brief offering of what control systems we have drivers for. The list is larger than this, but it is your main top control systems. And 2 interesting ones down toward the bottom of the list. Well, just most recently, RTI and URC became available for service mount with buttons, but also if any of you are using Rune or BlueOS, their integration systems actually allow for IP buttons or the service mount buttons to be programmed directly from within the app and not having to use any type of control system at all. So it's an interesting little fact to get in there quickly without any type of control system and still allow for IP buttons to be integrated into that solution. There's an open API protocol that I'm going to skip over here, but if anyone likes to, it is open, so you can design and program your own communication between the service mount with buttons into your control system of choice. And lastly, on our website, there's a number of different setup videos that we've made that shows the simple process of getting service mount with buttons onto your control system. And once on the control system, the design is up to you how you'd like to program each one of those buttons. I think that's all that we got time for this at this point. if there's any more information that any of you would like, definitely I can get on a call later on or email back and forth. I think there's a few things we want to wrap with. So at this point, Rick, if you want to jump back in, then it's all yours.
Yeah, I'm here now. So I do have some questions that came up. So
Yes.
one of the questions that pops up is when a customer has their own provided iPad that's already at the house or already sitting there,
Uh-huh.
can you show the spot on the back of the iPad where you would go to identify the unit, and then also the cross-reference sheet where you would go to confirm which mount you need for that model?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to jump out of the keynote here. I'm going to jump into just our iPort products website at this point. So give me a second
Okay.
here. Let me switch this here to Safari. So on our website, iportproducts.com, if we can get it to load, under the support tab, there is a couple different things that we have to help aid in this identification of the iPad in products that are available. So right here we have the iPad product selection guide. So again, this was under iportproducts.com and then the front page of support. If you select that, there's a couple different things that are available here. There's a link to take you to Apple's website that goes through the entire product offering of iPads that they've ever had. But there's an easy way here to identify which iPad you're working with. On the back of the iPad, there's an A number followed by, or an A letter followed by some numbers. And within this site here, we have all of those matching numbers that give you the iPad model, and then these are all links that will then potentially take you to the available product offerings that we have for that particular product. So I'll do this again real quickly. So if I've identified that I have an A1566 product at a customer's house, that's an iPad Air 2. I can click on that link here, and then on iportproducts.com, it shows you what available products that we have that work with that particular iPad. So iportproducts.com/support, and then there's the Apple iPad model selection guide. Does that answer that
Okay,
question?
perfect. Yeah, the last time we did this webinar, we went straight to that, or we didn't go straight to it. We did it almost toward the end, and it was like, oh, that was what everyone was like, oh, that is exactly what I needed. So I wanted to lead with
Yeah,
that on
there.
this one. So
Yeah,
in my
absolutely.
notes, I remembered what we did last time. All
Great.
right, perfect. So we've got a couple extra questions here. So the Generation 3 Pro iPads are now migrated to USB-C. How do we know which ones are which? And then also, is that part of the different variation, the extra spacing for the ISBC connector versus the Lightning?
Sure. So
Are
the
they pretty
Pro,
similar sized? If you have like multiple different generations of iPad in the same house, is one going to have like a significantly larger and different looking frame on it, case on it?
yeah, no, that's an interesting question for sure. So the third generation of the iPad Pro 12.9 is significantly smaller in both its X and Y axis of the iPad because they've eliminated the actual home button on the iPad. So it uses facial recognition to unlock the product. And as a result, they've been able to shrink that. So to answer the second part of your question, there is a noticeably different look and feel to that iPad versus the generation 1 and generation 2. That change between those two, the 11-inch and the 12.9, has rendered the current product offerings that we have requiring more changes because of the size. Typically in the past, if things have changed, by a couple millimeters, we can compensate for that. But this is requiring a complete redesign of all of our existing product lines to accommodate that. On top of your first question, they've moved to USB-C, which is a much different power profile than Lightning has been in the past. So our splitter and data splitter, things like that, are proving to be more difficult to work with under the USB-C conditions. So that's definitely, it's requiring more work on our electrical engineering team in order to find out the best solution for that. When it's all said and done, we're still looking at different options, but I believe part of your first question was the size of the USB-C connector. It is a bit bigger than the previous Lightning connectors, so we're having to take all of that into account when designing the aesthetics of the products for the 12.9, the 11-inch iPad Pros.
Okay, is that why? And your screen still shows the two of the top three links are those models: the 12.9 Pro 3rd Gen and the 11-inch Pro, which is a new model, correct? And it says no iPort product support at this time.
Correct. So
Okay,
that's
so
the
that's
model.
what you were just speaking of. We're waiting on
Yes.
those new products. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
So they're in this table here to identify, oh, if I have an A1876, you can see that that is the 3rd generation Pro, but there's no current support of product line for that.
Okay, perfect. All right, so the next question that pops up is using LaunchPort or LuxePort in point of sale or kiosk applications. You did mention locking. The follow-up question to that is, are there card readers available, or if not directly through Dana, are there recommended third-party accessories that will work well on the LaunchPort or LuxePort platforms?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're seeing this application a lot within point of sale locations of using tablets or iPads specifically. So we don't have or offer a card reader that mechanically fits into any one of the sleeves. But what we're seeing is the trend is moving towards more chip readers or card like swipe and chip readers, but the majority of them are running over a secure Bluetooth connection to the iPad. So Square, Clover, things like that, those card readers all are seeming to work really well. There's no obstruction within the Bluetooth connection of the iPad while in a LaunchPort or a LuxePort. So the only thing is there is not the ability of hardwiring that card reader to the iPad, but all you would need at that point is looking for a card reader that's just connected over a Bluetooth connection, which is they've been able to secure at this point for safe transactions.
Okay, perfect. All right, so let me see. Will there be a new, and this is a roadmap question, is there a new
Yes.
PoE splitter on the roadmap that would support Lightning and USB-C and power and Ethernet over one cable with no dongles? I'm
You want it
asking it
all?
as it was phrased.
Yeah, no, it's fine. That is definitely something that we are looking into. We would like that product offering to be as simple as possible, with one device that can support multiple connected peripherals, either at one point in time or depending upon what's installed, and having data provided at that same point in time. So as I alluded to a little bit earlier, USB-C power profiles are a little bit more challenging than Lightning has been in the past. So that's providing some more thinking power that our electrical engineers are having to undergo. But yes, that's definitely something we're heavily looking into. Time wise, I have no idea even where to start to say we can offer it at any point in time. But from our wish list of a product generation change to the splitter would be USB-C and USB-A for lightning, power, and data all within a singular device.
Okay, so the answer is stay tuned.
Yes,
Nothing exists today, and we don't have a timeline today.
correct.
Perfect. Okay. So Jamie's asking a question about iPad batteries that swell. I know that was an issue in like earlier generation product.
Sure.
Any idea what could cause that we might be able to like engineer out of a system design, or are there any
Yeah.
particular precautions that you recommend?
Can you guys still hear me? It's showing that my computer audio is now red,
No, you're
which
live.
means probably not able to hear me right now.
You're live.
Hang on, guys. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me? Oh, now it says offline. All right, we're going to give Chase just a moment to kick back on here. Chase, can you hear us at all? All right, everyone. We did have some additional questions about the swelling, and we also had an additional question that came in about James. James, you were asking about the in-wall versions for our iPads. Or I'm sorry, it says iPod. Well, the in-wall product is only for the earlier generation models. I don't know that they're still moving forward with those. Dan, are you still on the call?
I
We
am
got
still
Dan.
here.
Oh, hey, Dan. Chase seems to be having a technical issue here. Can you talk about the in-wall model that we had in the past? Are there plans to keep that line moving forward?
I don't believe there's the one from the
All right.
past.
Am I back?
There's Chase.
Oh, hey Dan, there's Chase.
Hey.
Okay, so Chase, I was asking Dan if he would jump in on one of the questions here. So the question came up about the in-wall mount. In the past, we had an iPad mount that was flush mount. So can you elaborate on
Yes.
the plans, if there are plans to continue producing new products in that line?
Sure. So that product was our control mount. Control mount was, well, there's either that or, so there's two different things. So control mount was the iPad mount that was more in-wall design. We've stopped production on that line in replacement for surface mount, which is more on wall. And the reasoning and design behind that is if at any point in time, which never happens, the iPad changes, I say that sarcastically because it seems to every single year. If you have to go in and fill a iPad-sized hole in the wall in order to redo a location, that makes everybody's life a little bit harder on the install side. So we've moved to a surface mount that only has 4 little anchor points that are a lot easier to fill and patch if needed to within the iPad size changing. Now we do offer a product within our third brand within our company that's called TrueFig, and the TrueFig platform actually allows for full flush mounting of the surface mount. The installation process is a little bit more complicated and specialized, but it is available to completely flush mount a surface mount product into the wall, and that would be under our TrueFig product lines.
All right, thanks for the clarification on that one.
Did we cover batteries? Did I dodge that bullet and make Dan do it?
You were no, Dan did not cover it, but you
Oh, come on, Dan.
was that the issue for the technical issue? You just said batteries? Nope, don't want to talk about it.
So here, let me address that real quickly.
Sure, thank you.
That's definitely something that we've seen within now aging iPads. The moment that we first started to see this product or see this happening within iPads in our products, we sent our products back up to Apple for further evaluation to understand if there was something going on with our products that were causing the battery swelling. So contacted their engineers, sent our products back up. They reevaluated everything and assured that there was no issue within our product that was causing the battery swelling. Now, that to be said, this was a few years ago, and they didn't provide any context as to what may be happening. That message has actually changed from Apple, and what's happening is basically the swelling within the battery is a byproduct of the lithium batteries aging themselves out. So as they get older, they start to off gas a little bit, and they will actually do this expansion. This is something, as I mentioned, within my years at Apple, that I've even seen on their computers, and this was 7 years ago that I was seeing this as a regular occurrence. But what Apple has implemented at this point is they recognize that their iPad tablets are installed and plugged in for sometimes forever, but for long extended periods of time, and they're recognizing that this is becoming a regular occurrence for their tablets. I do want to point out that I have seen expanding batteries from all sorts of different products that are actually plugged in with the specified connector as well. So I have pictures of walking through a Target and seeing an iPad plugged in with the Apple Lightning connector doing the same exact thing. So what Apple's done to address this is they realize that they're going to be plugged in for extended periods of time. So within the software update version of 11.3 of their iOS system, recognizes the battery health. And if it's been plugged into a power adapter for an extended period of time, it will help to modulate that charge cycle of the battery. So what it'll do is it'll show 100%, but it's actually letting the battery drain off some power, and then it goes through to recharge. Because what happens is if it's continuing to be on power without this new firmware integration that they've done, it'll drop 1% and then gain 1%, and then drop 1% and gain 1%. And basically, it's eating through the iPad's usable life. And then as a result, it starts to expand. Usually we've seen probably around 2 years or so. The symptom isn't specific to really any iPad model or size. I've seen them personally on all iPads, all sizes. And then it's a part of the lithium-based product starting to degrade. So if you have a Tesla Model 3, in a few years, you actually might turn into a Tesla S with those batteries starting to expand inside a Tesla as well. That was a little attempt at humor for battery jokes.
I don't get it, so I can't. All right. Uh,
Hey, Chase, it's
all right.
Dan.
So,
Hey, Dan.
Real quick, that Apple software was kind of that major one that happened last year, correct? Around last
Correct.
March.
Yep.
And that's the one that Apple phone users said this software update eats a ton of my battery time. But that's the one that was the major one that addressed this battery discharge, recharge while permanently plugged in.
Correct. Yeah. So we're in it about a year now, and the biggest win is really Apple acknowledging that this is a common use case scenario for their tablets and doing something about helping the battery life extend for many years forward while plugged in.
all right. Thanks for the clarification on all that. The next
Yep.
question that comes up. So James replied back. He was definitely looking for iPod accessories, specifically a surface mount that will hold one of the last generation iPods. I'm assuming like the iPod Touch. Wasn't it the same? Also the same
That's
form
it.
factor as some of the phones?
Yeah, it started to raise. It got taller, and I believe it was pretty close to the same form factor. Yeah, that's not something that we have on our roadmap as far as a product goes. Um, Mainly from what we're seeing is the phones or devices have moved towards a streaming based solution. So having it permanently docked is not necessarily favorable for many users nowadays. For those products, and they'd rather just stream from a streaming source and then stream wirelessly to their entertainment systems. So it's not something at this time that we have any product roadmap for the iPod touches.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. Yeah, out
Mm-hmm.
here in the field, we see that definitely that application is usually filled by a mini in some sort of a frame, and then it controls either the Sonos app or the Bose SoundTouch app or the whatever
Sure.
Yamaha Music Cast.
Yep.
I mean, those are the big three that we sell, but there are a couple other players as well. But usually it's controlling another hardware piece somewhere else in the system.
Exactly. And at that point, if it's a size thing, then the mini is a great option. But the iPad Air 6th generation is cheaper than the iPad Minis even now at this point, and actually gets you more screen real estate. So something that um, I don't understand their business model for it, but you get a bigger iPad and it's less expensive. Gives you more to work with as well.
Yeah, I never understood that. It's it's Apple though. You can't really
Yep,
fault them based on if you look at the stock price, you can understand that they're probably doing something correctly.
they're doing something right for sure.
All right. Um, I think that's about it. So we don't have any more questions in the chat box. If anyone has any quick
Okay.
questions, please type them in. Otherwise, do you guys have any closing remarks or anything else to add that maybe we didn't touch on? Oh, I know what we didn't touch on. The promo. And I was going to wait till the end to do the promo anyway because we're going to cut it off the editing so it doesn't go on the YouTube. So, Dan, do you want to outline the promo?
Sure. So we are going to offer for all folks here on the call today the ability to purchase a iPort product for demo, personal use, whatever have you. You can purchase one system, if you will, for 50 off from now through the end of the week. And on backstock for that product for home use, whatever, or any upcoming jobs that you could feel the need to help support iPort and put some products in, we're going to offer 20% off on backstock. So let Rick know. I'm not quite sure if there's a form you have for all that, Rick, or how that works, but we're going to offer that. And again, that's for today, tomorrow, and Friday for everyone here attending.
So the way we'll do it here at AllNet, now again, there may be some MRI folks on the call, and if you'd like, you're welcome to follow with me. What I'll do is I'll forward them off to Bo over at MRI to process, and he can parse it out to the sales staff at MRI. Internally, If you want to make me the appointment, that's fine. Everyone has my email address since I send out the email blasts for the webinars each week. So feel free to reply back to me with any questions or the model numbers you'd like. So Dan, point of clarification on this: it's 50% off for the display unit or the unit to demo, and then 20% off on backstock. Is that on pick one only, or if someone wants to put 2 or 3 models up, would that be would we extend that to multiple different models?
I would be okay extending that, Rick. Good question. I did kind of say system, and what I meant by system would be, if you were buying a LuxePort system, right, you'd probably need the case along with some sort of charging, either wall station or base station or all the above. So it wouldn't just be 50 off the case and then the charging at full price. If it's a surface mount, that's pretty intact. But if someone wants multiple form factors, we'd love you to support them all, kind of own it,
Perfect.
try it, love it.
So if someone wants a tabletop unit and a surface mount unit, we'll take the order. That's what I'm hearing.
That is correct.
Love it.
And then backstock of those would be the 20.
Thanks, Dan. Okay. Yeah, I'll draft that up in an email and I'll follow up with everyone that's on the call. Everyone who registered for the call. No, everyone who logged into the call, because we're going to make it for attendees only. It's a special thing for those of you who took the time to join us today. So, all right. Well, thanks, Dan. And thanks, Chase, for the presentation today. If anyone has any additional questions, type them in very quickly. Otherwise, I think we're just about wrapped up. So let me see. Yeah, we went over about 10 minutes today.
That's right.
All
That's
right.
my fault. Got disconnected.
No, we're not going to blame it on you. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us today. Look for a follow-up email from me later this afternoon, and hopefully we can get some LaunchPort and LuxePort product out in the field and get you guys some really secure and elegant cases for all of your control product, your touch panel product. So thanks again to Chase, and thanks again to Dan for taking the time to join us today for the presentation. And again, thanks everyone for joining us from the field. So we're going to go ahead and end the webinar now.
Thanks, everyone.